Hey guys, and welcome to my first DragonFable video guide. Today, I'm going to be going over the comprehensive way to prep for the endgame. Now, for those of you who didn't know, right up here in Falcon Reach through this portal is the Inn at the Edge of Time. This is the endgame battle arena. It has the hardest fights in the game and the best gear in the game. So, obviously, before you want to start any of these fights, to get the best gear, you're going to want to have the best gear that you can get before any in content. I'm going to be covering only DA and NDA gear, so no DC, seasonal, special offer gear. Actually, I will be covering DM gear just because there is a war going on, but I will cover DC and seasonal gear in another video probably. Now, this is a lot of gear, so don't feel pressured into getting all of it or even most of it, but you know, for any completionists out there, the option is there. And I'm going to try to mention what is, in my opinion, really worth getting and why, so any must-haves or stuff like that. And because I'm going to be going over like different sets of gear, there's some gear that fits into several categories, so I'm going to try to avoid gear overlaps where possible. So try to stick around for the full video. Alright, we're going to start off with all resistance gear, which is the most important gear in the game, most important stat. You know, all resistance, the more all resistance you have, the less damage you take. So this is what you're going to be using the vast majority of the time. We're going to start off with weapons, and your first weapon is going to be the Soulforged Scythe, specifically ice, as you can see here. Now this has 10 all resistance, which is the most you can get from any weapon, and it has pretty decent stats, and 95 static damage. So to get this, you're going to want to go to Ravenloss, and you're going to trek through the city, and just follow the path I'm doing here. It's a bit of a walk. Past the card shop here, and right in here, the Soul Forge for money. Talk to our Boyland Reet, and to do this, you're going to want to get a Spirit Cast, and then you're going to want to do one of these two quests for the Elemental Spirit. It doesn't matter which quest, they're both basically the same, just different monsters, same drop rates and everything. And then at the end, you can get an Elemental Spirit. You're going to want the Ice Spirit. It is an RNG drop, so it might take a while, but it's very worth getting. And then you're going to Soul Forge here. I can't because I don't have a Spirit Cast, and I already have my Scythe. But it's the reason you want Ice specifically is because you can pair it with Ice Scythe. I'll be talking more about Ice Scythe later at the end of the video with other weapon specials, but basically this combo, Soulforged Scythe with Ice Scythe slotted, is basically the highest damage weapon you can get before the inn. Especially good if you are a high hit count class, because you can proc Ice Scythe more reliably. I should also mention, you can effectively only have one Soulforged weapon. And what I mean by that is specifically elements. You can only have one element, because as soon as you load the art for any Soulforged weapon, all the other Soulforged weapons in your inventory will become that same element. So if you have like a Soulforged Scythe Ice and a Soulforged Scythe Darkness in your inventory, if you load the Soulforged Scythe Ice, they'll both become Soulforged Scythe Ice instead of one Ice, one Darkness. Alright, next up would be Blades of the Great One. This is overall the best weapon you can get before the inn. 96 static damage, better stats than Soulforged Scythe, as well as minus 10 health resistance, which increases your healing. And to get this, you want to go to Sword Haven. I usually just go through the timeline here. and go to quests, the Awakened Depths. Now obviously this is only accessible if you've gotten up to this point. Head right, quests, go to Dragonsvar's Shore, and it's going to be here in Alliance Blades. Now this is really worth getting because you don't have to really farm any quests for it. There's no RNG drops involved or anything. It's just a bunch of materials that you're going to combine together and make your Blades of the Great One, which you then combine with another material to make your level 90 version. Now, the differences between these three are only cosmetic. Depends on what faction you take. The stats are all the same. But yeah, this is going to be the best damage weapon if your class has lower hit counts and can't really proc eyesight reliably. So for example, something like Ranger. So this is really, really worth getting. Doesn't really take a lot of effort either. Just make sure you have inventory space to carry the materials. And lastly, we're gonna have Ultra Omni-Knight Blade. Now this has pretty mediocre damage. It's quite a large damage range and only 93 average. The stats are fine actually, but the main seller is that 8 immobility. And it's also NDA, so even if you don't have a DA, you can use this. This is pretty much going to be the best weapon you have access to before the end. So 18 total immobility, great for resisting stuns. It's also really, really easy to get. So to get it, we're going to go to Oaklore. And from Oaklore, head right, down here, left here. And if you see this rope right here, see how it lights up as I hover over it? It's really easy to miss. I'm going to click on the rope and climb down, talk to Lore Master Oruni, and do this quest. Now at the end of this quest, you get a material, and you can turn in this material to the BM Moglin in Cicero's Superstore, right over here. You can find the Moglin through the map, Hero Mart, weapons, and you're going to go to Ultra Omni-Knight. You can turn it in right here and upgrade it to level 90 or whatever level you are. So pretty solid weapon overall. Next up for helms. The best helm is Dragonlord Captain's Helm. 8 all resistance. It's not 10, but 8 is the most you can get without DCs before the inn. And pretty decent stats overall. So to get this, we're going to go back to Dragisvard. Go to Swordhaven. So we're going to go back to the Awakened Depths. This time we're going to go in the city. Down over here. And see this sword. This is going to be the shop you're going to go into. And Forge Shop. So Dragonlord Captain's Helm right here. It is 100,000 gold though, so pretty expensive, not a drop in the bucket. But I would say if you have the gold, this is probably the most worth purchase you can make before starting the inn. In terms of gear at least. And there is another option for helmets, which is going to be Joker's Madness, but it's only 6 all resistance. So, 2 all resistance does actually matter a lot. It's quite a bit of less damage taken if you have 8 over 6, but it does have 5 immobility, so 11 total immobility, good for resisting stuns, but usually you shouldn't have that much issue reaching 100 immobility resistance, especially not if you have Ultra Omni-Knight Blade. But to get Jokers, we're going to go back to Ravenloss and back to that card shop you may have seen on the way to the Soul Forge. So all the way over here into the card shop. Gonna want to talk to Eliel go to Foretell, Quest, and then you're going to want to choose Darkness, and then Light. You're going to fight this Doom Kitten. I won't in the interest of time. And then in the chest will be the Joker shop with the Joker's Madness. It's 20,000 gold, so it is cheaper than Dragonlord Captain's Helm. I would say get one or the other, don't get both, but obviously Dragonlord Captain's Helm is a much better item overall. So next up is necklaces. So the main one is going to be the Tijuruk's Scale. So go into the Falcon Reach Inn here, Odd Jobs, and do this quest here. Now this quest does have a pretty annoying boss at the end. I would suggest using Chaos Weaver, or if you don't have Chaos Weaver, Necromancer. And it's gonna drop this necklace here. So the main selling point is just the 10-all resistance. Nothing before the inn even comes close to 10-all resistance. Every other story necklace has a maximum of 5. So even though the stats are abysmal, as you can see, and it even has plus 10 health resistance, which is terrible for healing, it is still worth using. But you know, there's a definitely consensus that Tijuruk's feels terrible to use among the community. So the only other option really is something like Grub Necklace. Now, Grub Necklace, as you can see, is only 5-all resistance, so you're going to be taking a lot more damage, but it is pretty solid offensively. So, you know, maybe there's some situations in which you'd rather use the Grub Necklace, but overall, 10-all is irreplaceable. As for the Grub Necklace, you're gonna want to go to Helm's Harbor in Greengard, and you're gonna want to set sail in the Pale Sea, and I believe it is, well, it's on L6, which is like this island or something like that. I'm not going to sail there because it's going to take too long, but you can visit the Battlon forums. Just search up DragonFable Grub Necklace. It'll tell you how to get there. But I would say if you have Tijuruk, it's a pretty skippable item overall. Next up, capes. This is the big one. So it's going to be the Wings of the Thousand Flames. Now I have Infernos, which is the DC version, because I didn't want to farm for the free version, but they have the same stats, 15 all. I can't really stress how massive 15 all is. This is the most all resistance you can get on any item in the entire game. This is a must-have, even though it has no stats. 15 all is simply too good to pass up. You almost need this item. So to get it, I'm going to go to Book 1 Falcon Reach, climb up the Guardian Tower here, and head to the portal. Just kidding, I guess it was changed. I am pretty old. Alright, maybe it's on the map. Yeah, here we go. Riverine Keep. The 100-room dungeon. So you're gonna fly there. And it is a very low drop. It's about a 1% drop chance from what we know. So if you don't want to run this dungeon like 100 times or whatever, you can open the shop at the end and buy the DC version like I did. I think it's like 150 DC, so it's not too bad. But yeah, really, really worth getting. Maybe arguably the single most worth getting item in this entire video. Okay. Next up is gonna be rings. Now, I'm gonna list 3 rings here. In general, they're all pretty skippable because they will only have 2 all resistance, and the Inn at the Edge of Time has several 5 all resistance rings that are all pretty easy to get. So if you don't want to get these, I would say that's fine, you can skip them. So first off is gonna be the Rose General's ring. 2 all resistance. Yeah, not great stats, but 2 all is 2 all. So for this, you're gonna go to Sulaneska. Sorry, timeline. Gonna go to Kara, and then Mirtha, and you're gonna go to Espina Rosa. And it's in this quest here. So, if I'm not mistaken, this quest sucks to farm because you're not playing as yourself. Or you are playing as yourself, but you're forced into like base warrior or something. So, you know, it takes a really long time. Overall, if you want to skip it, go right ahead. Next ring, I don't believe I'm carrying it. Yeah, I don't have the space. So it's gonna be once again in Ravenloss. You know, down, down, left, up, 5 left, and this girl here, shop, and the molar ring, 2 all, worse stats than Rose General's ring, and you do need 15 darkened scissors, which you can get from her quest. So again, if you don't want to farm it, that's fine, just skip it. And lastly would be the Seal of the Emperor ring. This is from Book 3 Sandsea. So if we go to Duat and talk to Camilla, I'm not actually sure where Camilla is. Here. Oh, that's not him. Probably should have done my research before this. Oh, here we go. Okay, Camilla, accessories, 22,000 gold, pretty bad stats, 2 all resistance, again, totally skippable. So yeah, all the rings skippable, but I just thought I would mention them just in case. Okay, now belts are probably not skippable. So the main one is going to be Ogrex Treasure. 5 all resistance, 5 immobility resistance, minus 10 health, pretty good stats. This is overall the best belt that you can get in the story. There's a bunch of 5 all resistance belts, but I would say Ogrex is overall the best. It has balanced stats, it has 10 immobility resistance, it has minus 10 health, net minus 5, which is good for healing. And even post-in, this is actually the best unsafe healing belt. I'll go more into detail on that later. But yeah, really worth getting. Arguably must-have, I would say. So to get that, you're gonna go to Kara again. And quests. Okay, it's actually an older quest. You're gonna go to Mirtha, past quests, and here, the border prison. I believe this is like pretty much a guaranteed drop as well, so easy to farm, really good belt, definitely grab Ogre X treasure. Next up would be Seeker's Lash. This is arguably, I think, better offensively. Yeah, it has 3 more main stat, but it doesn't have immobility resistance. It doesn't have the extra -5 health resistance that Ogre X have, and it comes much later in the story. So Ogre X overall, I would say, is still probably better. To get Seekers, you're gonna go to Swordhaven again. This comes like in one of the most recent quests, so pretty or very late into the story. It's going to be Convergence and then Fallen Facade, I believe. Yeah, Fallen Facade. So slightly better offensively. I would say worse defensively, but you know, if you want to get it, go ahead. And lastly, there's 2 more 5 all belts. You got Crystal Notched Belt and Ribbon of Compromise. These 2 are like kind of roughly equal. Crystal Notched Belt, its main use, I would say, is probably for like purely defensive magic pierce melee stacking while retaining your all resistance. As you can see, no main stat. So to get this, you're gonna go to your map into, I believe, Green Guard, and yeah, the nest. This quest, Reinforcements. Yeah, this one I would say probably skippable unless you're doing some like challenge in which you really need NPM and all resistance, in which case, you know, that's probably when you're well into doing the inn already and you're trying to do some difficult challenge. So as for Ribbon of Compromise, this is good charisma. It also has 8 magic pierce melee defense, so you know, also probably pretty good for stacking avoidance while keeping your all resistance while still having some stats. Kind of niche, but you know, it can potentially have its uses. So to get this, we're gonna go back to Kara in the timeline. This is also, actually this is not a past quest, I think. Yeah, it's from the Golden Hand, this quest. And it's pretty easy to farm, so, you know, still I would say if you're gonna only get 1 belt, you should get Ogre X treasure. And lastly, trinkets. So the only trinket pre-in with all resistance is Dragon's Bulwark. It has 3 all resistance, -3 health, so it's healing neutral. It has decent stats. It's kind of tailored defensively, which is where you get the 15 and 5 magic pierce melee, which is actually pretty good. Now to get Dragon's Bulwark, you're gonna first want Dragon's Patience, which is from the shops in here. Artifacts, Dragonlord artifacts, and Dragon's Patience. It's not really worth spending your DCs on, but it is 25,000 gold otherwise. If you're like swimming in DCs, if you have like 80,000 DCs, sure, you can just buy it. Otherwise, I would say definitely buy it with gold because DCs are very valuable. And while you're at it, you can also pick up Dragon's Rage because that's going to later give you access to the Wrath Dragonlord class, which is overall, I would say, probably better than Bulwark Dragonlord. It has much faster clears, but the trinket itself, not as good as Dragon's Bulwark, because, as you can see, oh wow, Wait, since when did this have all resist? I assumed that it just didn't have all resist. Alright. So, I might be a misinformer. That's alright. I've learned my lesson. Dragon's Wrath, better offensively. Dragon's Bulwark, better defensively. I would say, just from looking at it here, Dragon's Bulwark is still better. You know, you're losing 4 main stat, but you're not losing any bonus, you're not losing any crit, and then you're also getting 3 Magic Pierce melee, 15 whiz, or 13 whiz, 13 end. So Dragon's Bulwark, probably still better. Now, once you buy your artifacts from here, you're going to want to upgrade them. So to upgrade them, you go again to Awaken Depths. Back to Dragon's Grasp. And it's going to be in that same shop we were in before. So this one right here. Forge shop. And you're going to want to get a Dragon Core Stone. Again, you can get the crystal if you really don't want to farm, obviously 300,000 gold. And you have a ton of DCs. But 300,000 gold is a lot. But still not too difficult to farm if you know how to farm gold. And Astral Codex has a great video on like the most efficient gold farms, so I'd go check that out if you need the gold. And then once you buy this, you can go into Artifact Upgrade, and right here, you just upgrade your trinkets. As for which one to get first, it kind of just depends on you. Dragon's Wrath is a good questing class. It's generally faster at doing stuff than Dragon's Bulwark. But as I said, Dragon's Bulwark is probably the better trinket overall. Now if you're not interested in playing Dragon Lord like at all, I would just say get Dragon's Bulwark. But you know, especially if you don't have Chaos Weaver, Dragon's Wrath is probably going to be one of your best choices for farming quests. So again, up to you. Just weigh the pros and cons. Do you have the gold? Do you have the DCs? All that good stuff. Alright, and for the next bracer, or not bracer, trinket, it would be these 3 Exalted Blasters. Now, I would say the most worth it is Exalted Blaster Doom. Because look at those stats. This thing has absurd stats. This is the best offensive trinket in the whole game. It doesn't have any all resistance, but it's absolutely worth getting. Amalgam is less offensive, but it focuses on charisma, and then Destiny focuses on defense, so it has whiz and end. But you know, those stats from Doom, I would say most of the time too good to pass up. Very, very good trinket, especially if the fight you're doing does light and darkness damage or good and evil damage. So to get these, we're going to go to Falcon Reach Book 3, up and left, and then talk to Granny over here. Go to the Malorus, and they are from, I believe, Reawakening. Yeah, so this shop here, after you do Rebirth, you'll get your Forgotten Dream, and you can upgrade them here. The blasters themselves, the earlier blasters, you can get through the entire Malorus saga. If you want to just search up like DragonFable Exalted Blaster, and you can click through the forums and you'll see where to find each upgrade leading up to the final upgrade. which would be the Exalted Blasters. As for if it's worth getting all three, I'd say it's arguable, but Doom is definitely worth getting. And lastly would be Bracers. Now there really aren't any notable pre-in Bracers, so we're just going to default to Hero's Armband, 1 luck, 2 main stat. That's about as good as you're going to get. There's no all resistance you can get from Bracers pre-in, so yeah, it's just going to be Hero's Armband. And that's it for all resistance. So next up would be offensive gear. Now offensive gear can really bolster your damage output if you know when to swap to it, you know, on your burst turns, especially if you're not really at risk of getting hit. So as I already said, the most damaging weapons you can get is Soulforged Scythe plus Ice Scythe and Blades of the Great One. But there is one other good offensive weapon, and that would be the Void Cutter weapon. So 95 static damage, 12 crit, and 30 of their respective main stat. So these actually, I think, do slightly more damage than Blades of the Great One by itself. But they do lose out on 3 crit and 1 all resistance. So pretty niche overall, but you know, I think they're still worth mentioning. And to get these, it's going to be again Malorus, and they're going to be in Reawakening here, or specifically once you get your Forgotten Dream, go to Void Cutter here, you make your Abyss Cutter weapons, and then I have to leave again and walk all the way back because this doesn't spawn you back at Granny. And then you're going to do the epilogue quest, which is just a cutscene. It's going to give you this Charm of the Maker's material. As for which one is the most worth getting, I mean, it just depends on what class you play. If you play an Int class, get the Spear. If you play a Dex class, get the Dagger. If you play a Strength class, get the Sword. You can get all three eventually. I have all three. But I would say after you get the one for the class that you're using, you can probably get the Dagger because it's good for dot stacking. Or not dot stacking, but dot snapshotting, I should say. Just making sure you have a high dex when you use a dot to get the most damage out of the dot as possible. And for helmets, the main one is the Titan Visage helm. This is one of the best crit helms in the entire game, and it also comes with a nice 5-all resistance. And yeah, 15 crit, nothing really gets over 15 crit, and 10 luck makes it effectively 16, 15 main stat as well. Really good for when you need to crit. This is, again, arguably must-have for offensive gear. To get this, we're going to go back to Swordhaven, and it's going to be in the Green Guard Alliance. And Titan Visage right here. This is kind of just like Blades of the Great One, where you'll get the materials through doing the quests, but you do need to do this to battle quest several times to get those proclamation medals that you're going to need to upgrade. And that would be, let's see, so 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, so it looks like 40 proclamation medals total. So you do this quest, you're going to have to do it over 40 times because it does have a chance to drop Defender's medals. But it's just 5 monsters, it's pretty quick. Definitely worth getting. Next up, another really good helm Crown of the Lost Hawk. This is a really recent one. I think it's like kind of incredible for a story helm that doesn't even need to be crafted. It's 10 crit, 20 main stat, and even for all, -4 health. This is really, really good for stacking main stat. And, you know, even as a bonus, comes with 10 crit. So, to get this, we're gonna go back to Swordhaven again. And this is a pretty recent helm, so it's gonna be in Convergence. And the quest would be... Oh, actually it went too far. It's not Outpost Eden, it's still Swordhaven. I keep clicking on the wrong things. Alright, so Swordhaven. Convergence, and Chasing Answers. So this quest right here, I would say definitely worth farming. 20 main stat. Pretty hard to get higher than 20 main stat. So very worth getting. And speaking of getting higher than 20 main stat, the next ones would be... Actually, I believe I never bought these. Yeah. So, we're gonna go to Nibelheim. We're gonna go to the Forum. We're gonna go down here, and then right. And then right again. I'm gonna go to this lady right here selling clothes. Textile shop. And these 3 hoods. Now, obviously, as you can see, they are really expensive. 400,000 gold. But, you know, 24 main stat. So, they are good. I don't have them, and I would say they're pretty skippable. 400,000 gold is a lot. And, obviously, Crown of the Lost Hawk does exist, which isn't... Like, it isn't that much worse. So, unless you're swimming in gold, I would say they're not super necessary. And then lastly would be the Helmet of Tog Control. This I only threw in because it's 40 strength. Like, this is the best strength helm in the entire game. But if you don't play strength classes, it's pretty skippable. Especially because it decreases your crit by 20, which, you know, isn't really what you want. Even classes that go strength for questing, like Chaos Weaver, they still want to try and crit, so you'd usually be better off using, you know, Titan Visage Helm or Crown of the Lost Hawk. But still, I think it's worth mentioning because it is best in slot for strength stacking. And to get it, we're gonna go to Amityville. Past the notoriously laggy gate. And over here to everyone's favorite box cat. In the house right here. Verliris. And it is the Mayoral Menagerie. So you can farm this quest, get the Helmet of Tog Control, if you play a strength stacking class. And next up for necklaces, we're gonna have Shattered Amulet. This is the best main stat stacking necklace in the entire game. So I'll say very worth getting. You know, that -11 charisma or cha, -11 luck. That does hurt, especially because it makes that 5 crit, basically 4 crit. But it is a very good necklace for auto crits, for dex stacking, you know, stuff like that. And that's also going to be conveniently from Verliris in What's Mine is Yours, this quest here. So very worth getting, especially if you play a class with auto crits, I would say. And next up would be the crit necklace, Glamour Stone. 10 crit, 13 main stats, you know, less crit than Shattered, or sorry, more crit than Shattered, but less main stat. Very good offensive necklace overall. So I would say also pretty worth getting, especially if you play like offensive classes. And then to get that, we're gonna go to Sulaneska, to Kara, and I believe this is, yeah, this is a past quest. So we're gonna go to past quest here, and it's gonna be one step forward. So this is the best pre-in crit stacking necklace. I would say very worth getting if you're a class that wants to crit. And then last up for necklaces, Clock in, Cloak, Clasp, say that 3 times fast. This is kind of like a mixture between Shattered and Glamour Stone. So as you can see, less crit than Glamour Stone, but more main stat. But, you know, less crit than Shattered, but more, or less main stat than Shattered, but more crit. So it's like an in-between. You know, if Glamour Stone leaves you 2 off a multiple of 10 for int dex or strength, then I think Clock in is better. You want to reach that breakpoint of 10. Otherwise, Glamour Stone is better for that extra 2 crit. And to get Clock in, it's also going to be from Kara. It's going to be here, Lost and Found. So also, you know, reasonably worth farming. I would generally just use Glamour Stone, but that's kind of because I play Chaos Weaver and I need as high crit as I can get most of the time. And for capes, you probably noticed, but there are 3 capes back at that clothing shop we were at. But, you know, they're also, again, 400,000 gold, so. Here, textile shop, these 3 cloaks. Again, 24 main stat, 5 all, 10 crit, so they are statted, you know, very good, or very well, I should say. There isn't really anything better as far as stacking a particular stat. I don't believe like any cape, even from the inn, goes up to 25 or anything. So they are the best main stat stacking capes, but again, they are very, very expensive. So if you have the gold, I would say probably, or definitely more worth buying than the helms. And then just prioritize, you know, if you play an ink class, get soul menders. If you play a dex class, get soul weavers, obviously. And then I would say soul weavers second, again, because it's good for dex stacking. And if you don't have that much gold, then unfortunately your only option is Melissa's Wings, which as you can see are quite a bit worse. 9 crit, 12 main stat. This is the beginning of the 9 crit, 12 main stat curse, as I call it, because a lot of offensive story gear, for some reason, does not exceed 9 crit, 12 main stat. So to get Melissa's Wings, we're going to go back to Kara. Kind of inefficient, I know, but this is just the order I wrote everything in. And I believe this is a past quest as well. Yeah. And it's going to be a hero of the people. So if you don't have soul menders, or if you don't have the gold, definitely worth getting Melissa's, because this is the best offensive cape otherwise. Next up, rings. So the main thing is going to be Dreamglass Ring. This is 45 int, so this is the best int stacking ring in the entire game. This is a must-have if you play int classes. Really powerful, bolsters your damage by a lot. And to get it, we're gonna go back to Granny, up, left, and the Malorus. Gonna go to Remphalos. Alright, I didn't realize that would just start the whole quest. Is it Mr. Nameless then? Yeah, so it'd be from Breaking the Mold, this quest here. It's a drop at the end. Definitely worth getting if you play int classes. Alright, next up would be the Soulforged Rings. So we're gonna go back over here. I believe it's the first Halo. I'm gonna go left a bunch. Into Danao's Forge. Talk to Danao over here. Soulforged Rings. And you're gonna be upset, but again, 400,000 gold. So all the Soulforged stuff is really expensive. That's just how it is. But these are the best crit stacking rings in the game. 10 crit, 24 of their respective main stat. Red for strength, green for dex, blue for int. I would say the priority is definitely blue first, because crit and int go really well together. And then, especially if you play int classes, after that, kind of just depends on what class you play. But I would say red is also good, very worth getting, because it's a good farming ring, especially. Having high crit and high strength, you get good crit chance, you increase your damage floor, really nice mixture for farming. Green is kind of weird because like dex classes usually don't care that much about critting. You would rather just get as much straight up dex as you can. But the dex stacking ring is seasonal, so your only other option would be Soulforged Green. But of course, if you don't have 400,000 gold, your next best option is the Ring of Winter's Rage. 10 crit, so not bad. 12 main stat though, which is kind of where it suffers. And it suffers more from being a true mortal quest. Now, I don't actually know where they moved this guy. I don't quite recall. But, yeah, I'm not entirely sure where they moved him. Is he on the timeline, actually? Okay, so he's in Limcrest, or he's by Limcrest, I should say. And then down, right, and down. And it would be from, let's see, a Cold Shoulder. So a Cold Shoulder by itself isn't that bad of a quest to farm. But getting through all of these quests, there are some really long quests in here, some really annoying quests. Sandsea Gate is notorious, I know. There's a couple others that are just like really big mazes, and they're very annoying. So, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to go through all of this to get Ring of Winter's Rage, you can get kind of the next best thing, which I'm not carrying, but I do have. And that's gonna be the mechanical ring. Here we go. 8 crit, 11 main stat. So, you know, worse than Ring of Winter's Rage all around, but it is easier to farm. And this is another Malorus item. So this is going to be from here again, Milos, and I don't exactly remember which quest it's from. I'm pretty sure it's Remnants at Rest though. You can check the battle on forums. Alright, and time for belts. So, for belts, this again is the 9 crit, 12 main stat curse. The Belt of Golden Sand, 9 crit, 12 main stat, 12 luck, so effectively 10 crit. And no bonus, but 8 cha. So this is a pretty easy belt to get because it's just cost gold. You don't have to farm it or anything. And it's gonna be in the kind of recently added Sandsea path. So if we go on the path here, all the way to the right, we're gonna go right, up, and then over here, and then right, up again. We're gonna see this arch. I'm gonna go through the arch. I'm gonna go up into the right here. Right, right, up twice. And you're gonna see this kind of semi-hidden gold arch. There's gonna be a chest. We're gonna pick the lock, and so it's Nick, jab, Nick, tap, wiggle, tap, and unlock. And you're gonna see the belt in here, 30,000 gold. So it's not too bad, kind of expensive, but you know, it is one of the best offensive belts that you can get from the story. Your other option would be the Lost Frozen Chord. So again, 9 crit, 12 main stat, 12 luck. And you might think they're identical, but this has 9 bonus compared to the Belt of Golden Sand, 0 bonus, but 8 cha. So as for which one's better, there's no answer to that. It just depends on the scenario. If you have bonus and you don't need that 9 bonus, then just use the Belt of Golden Sand. Maybe that 8 cha will hit a breakpoint for your dragon. At the very least, it'll help your pet do a little bit more damage. Otherwise, you know, if you don't have a bonus buff or something, and that 9 bonus matters, then obviously use the Lost Frozen Chord. So to get Lost Frozen Chord, we're going to go back to Dragonfable, and it's going to be this quest, Through the Tangle. Alright, trinkets. Now keep in mind that you can't swap trinkets in the middle of a battle, so most of the time, you know, if you have Dragon's Bulwark, you're just going to be using Dragon's Bulwark, because all resistance is more valuable than offensive stats. That being said, you can still use offensive trinkets for farming. And obviously I mentioned Exalted Blaster, incredible stats, and Dragon's Wrath, which is just a more offensive version of Dragon's Bulwark. So those are your two kind of offensive farming trinket options. And again, for bracers, it's just going to be Hero's Armband. I believe I didn't actually mention how to get it. So if we go to Castle Voltrith and Calamity Saga, Caitiff, what quest is this from again? Okay, I don't know how I missed it, but it is the biggest button. It's from this quest, Calamity. And yeah, you know, 2 main stat. I believe there are no pre-in bracers that give crit, so your best option is just the Hero's Armband. Alright, next is for healing or minus health gear. So minus health gear is for swapping to when you're about to heal. I know that sounds kind of weird because minus is usually bad, but the reason minus health increases your healing is because healing actually deals health damage to you, so you want to take more health damage to heal. Alright, so I'm going to include the 2 different types of healing gear. There's safe healing gear and unsafe healing gear. Safe healing gear is for when you're not in danger of taking damage after you heal, and unsafe healing gear is used when you are going to take damage after you heal. So, to start off, we've got the Rose Pillow. This is minus 10 health resistance and 24 whiz. Now, every 20 points of whiz decreases your health resistance by 1. So this is effectively like minus 11 health resistance. So this is the best safe healing weapon in the game, I believe. But as you can see by this interesting damage range, it is absolutely not worth attacking with. Still, I would say it is skippable because Sea Chicken's Conquest is also net minus 10 health, 20 whiz, has actual like damage, and is one of the first challenges you're going to do. It's pretty easy in the end. You don't really need Rose Pillow. So next up, Blades of the Great One. This is the only like significant weapon in the story that has notable like minus health resistance. So this is net 0 health resistance. That kind of just makes it the best unsafe healing weapon you can get. And then just to be thorough, Winter's Coal. This is again a safe healing weapon, no all resistance, minus 10 health, only 12 whiz compared to Rose Pillow's 24, but it does have actual damage. However, you know, still skippable just because Sea Chicken's Conquest is really easy to get and you can get it really early without good gear. I forgot to mention for Rose Pillow, you're going to want to go to the shears on the travel map here. All the way up here. Inside, and then you're going to want to talk to Leon over here. Quests. Sanctuary's Return. Rose Pajamas. It's a pretty annoying quest to farm, so again, totally worth skipping. As for Winter's Coal, that's going to be from the Malorus Saga again. It's going to be Mr. Nameless. And the Frostful Gifts, 500 gold. Yeah, really cheap, really easy to pick up, takes no effort. So yeah, I mean, even though it is skippable, still worth buying, I would say. Alright, now for helms. First off, we got the best unsafe healing helm in the game, Mushroom Cap. Net minus 10 health, 10 whiz, So really good for healing. And to get it, we're gonna go to Ruby, this little Moglin over here, and Quest, Revenge of the Shrooms. So it is kind of a bit of an annoying quest to farm, but I would say still worth getting because it is the best unsafe healing helm in the game. And next up, Titan Visage Helm. We already covered really good offensively, but net 0 health, so you know, if you're getting hit, at least you'll have that 5-all resistance, take a bit less damage. And lastly, Self-Containment Unit. This only has -6 net health, but it has this huge 30 whiz, 30 end. So this is good because it's good for % max health safe heals. So you have that -6 health, which will increase your healing. And then if your heal is a percentage of your max health, that 30 end will increase that heal by a pretty significant amount. So this is really good for like Ranger. I believe Technomancer also has a % health heal over time effect. So anything like that. And to get this, we're going to go back to Dragisvard. Over here on the timeline. And it's from In Search of Slayer, so the first quest. And you do need it to progress through this storyline, so you know, you might as well farm a good one. Alright, so for necklaces, this is a huge one. Look at that. -20 health, no -all, 25 immobility resistance. This is huge for healing. This is the best safe and unsafe healing necklace in the entire game. This is, I would say, a must-have. And to get it, we're gonna go to... I don't actually know if it's on the map. Inaccessible. Well, it's from the Verderoche crossing. Let's see. I believe you can get there from Limcrest, but it might take a while. Right. So it's only from books 1 and 2 then, I guess. So here we go. And so from the crossing, you go left, left, into this building here, into Lini, and do this quest, Kill an Extraordinary. So again, really, really good necklace. The best immobility resistance necklace in the game. The best health, or best healing necklace in the whole game. So, you know, must have, definitely. Alright, so for capes, we have the Hide Behind. This has -40 all, +20 health resistance. So that's net -20 health resistance. Really big. But, you know, that -40 all is huge, so you do not want to get hit with this equipped, but it is the best safe healing cape in the entire game. So this is also a must-have. And then Crown of Damocles is basically, if you see here, 40 MPM, 40 BPD, so Crown of Damocles is the BPD equivalent of the Hide Behind. It's also the best bonus cape in the game, but again, -40 all, so just don't get hit. As for safe healing, I'm not actually carrying it, but I can show you in my bank. it would be the DragonFable Protector. So 5 all, minus 10 health, so net minus 5 health. You can take a bit less damage, you'll heal a bit more. So it's the best pre-in safe healing cape, and it has pretty decent stats overall. So definitely pick this up. And then we'll go over where to get all 3 of these. So for the hide behind, it's going to be one of the odd jobs in the Falcon Reach Inn. The hide behind, obviously. And then for the Crown of Damocles, that's going to be from Sirius here. Quests into the Fearscape. And for the DragonFable Protector, that's going to be from the Royal Resistance, all the way over here to Queen Victoria. And quests, the Royal Resistance. This is another craftable item right here. You know, you'll get all your stuff through just doing the quests, but you do need, again, Proclamation medals, so you're gonna have to do this 2 battle quite a bit. Alright, now for rings. The big one is the Brilliant Bloodstone Ring. This has minus 10 health, so pretty significant. 9 whiz, so this is basically the best safe healing realm, or best safe healing ring in the entire game. It's also the best pre-in unsafe healing ring, just because none of the rings with all resistance have any minus health. So you're just going to be using the Brilliant Bloodstone Ring to heal. And that is going to be from Amityville. And it's one of Raven's quests. And that would be the Dark Tower. So it is kind of an annoying quest to farm, but it's still very worth getting, I would say. Only thing comparable to the Brilliant Bloodstone Ring in terms of pure healing is the Etched Ring. Also minus 10 health, 9 whiz. It has 1 more crit, but 4 less cha and luck. But it is actually really annoying to farm. That would be from this quest here with Twilly. It's hide and seek. It transforms you into your dragon, and it's a pretty large drop pool. Annoying to farm. I would say just get Brilliant Bloodstone Ring. And lastly, Unhallowed Death Knight Circlet. This has minus 6 health, which obviously isn't as good as the minus 10, but it comes with 9 MPM. So it's actually very good for ensuring safe heals when you need to stack your MPM with your shield to avoid getting hit, and also heal. So it's kind of a hybrid, but very good item overall. I'd say really worth getting. And to get it, you're going to want to go to Book 1, the Necropolis, talk to Artix, go to Other Classes, Death Knight, Items, Death Knight Items. You're going to want to start with the Death Knight Circlet, and then upgrade that all the way up here into Unhallowed Death Knight Circlet. If you play Death Knight, obviously you're going to want to get all of these. But even if you don't play Death Knight, I would say you should get the Death Knight Circlet. Of the Death Knight gear, it's the most worth ring, or it's the most worth item by far. Alright, for belts, we've got Maeve's Tears. It says minus 9 all, which basically just means it has -9 health. So again, don't get hit while you have this equipped, but it is very good for safe healing. The best safe healing belt in the entire game, actually. And to get it, I'm going to go back to Sulaneska, to Kara. It's a past quest, and it's going to be Melissa. You just beat up Melissa, get her mom's belts, and you're chilling. And then next up would be Ogrek's treasure. We already went over this, but 5 all -10 health means -5 net health. Even post-in, it's still the best unsafe healing belt in the entire game, so definitely get Ogrek's. Once again, that is from the Border Prison. For trinkets, it just doesn't matter. Like, you can't swap trinkets anyways. Dragon's Bulwark, Dragon's Wrath are both neutral as far as healing goes. And for bracers, this also doesn't really matter, but technically it's Falwyn's Moon Charm. As I mentioned earlier, every 20 points of Voice gives you -1 health resistance. So if I demonstrate here, I have my max healing set here, minus health. If I change out Sea Chicken for Rose Pillow, as you can see, my Wiz is 63. Equipping Falwyn's Moon Charm wouldn't do anything, it would just bring it to 65. That makes no difference. So yeah, technically it is the best. It never really matters. Entirely skippable. If you really want it for whatever reason, it's a guaranteed drop from the 6 Heroes quest, Darkheart. But maybe it's worth picking up, and hopefully one day we'll get Falwyn's Infinity Bracelet with just 2 of every stat in the entire game. Alright. Next up, NPM gear. So NPM gear is very useful for stacking on top of shields or blinds to be able to avoid attacks. The higher the number, the higher the chance of an incoming attack missing. You need at least 151 more NPM than your opponent's bonus to guarantee a miss. So, for weapons, you got your main one, the Shattered Dream weapons. 10 all, 10 NPM. The reason I didn't mention them for all resistance is because they only have 93 average damage, the static damage I should say. So they are generally worse for doing damage. Their main use is just that NPM and BPD. They have no luck, and luck does also increase your NPM. I don't remember if it's every 10 points or every 20 points, but yes. So Scepter of the Shattered Dream, really good overall, especially if you want to stack your all resistance while also increasing your NPM resistance, which usually you do if you want to shield, but you also can't guarantee that you won't get hit, so you don't want to get hit through your shield and take 5,000 damage because you have, minus 80 all. And to get that, we're going to go back up here to Defiers of Fate this time. Wrong button. To the war, and it is from the epilogue. Alright. Next up would be the Rose Legacy weapons. So these are also 10 NPM, but they have 8 luck. So if you do get enough luck, that will increase your NPM by 1. So, it could make a difference. It's worse offensively, but it's also better for healing because of that minus 5 net health. Now to get these, we're gonna go all the way over here. It's gonna be in Sherwood. I won't run through the quest for time's sake, but if you go through the forest, you come to this fort here, and they're in this this fort quest. So it's gonna be up. I wonder if I can, okay, well, I can't avoid enemies, but you're gonna go right here, up here, and it's just gonna be in this rack, gold, but they are pretty expensive, 55,000. I would say most of the time that 8 luck doesn't matter that much. I think you'd be relatively fine just with Shattered Dream if you don't have the gold to spare. So let me get out of this quest. Alright, next up, for helms, we have the Drop Bear helms. These have 20 MPM, but very poor stats, and mainly that minus 40 all. So only use this if you need it to make you completely safe, because if you get hit once while you have minus 40 all on you, you're gonna take a lot of damage. And that is gonna be from the Odd Jobs quest, Drop Bears. Pretty straightforward. And the only other real option is the Eternal Hourglass Helm. This has 10 MPM, minus 5 health, so decent for healing, but it has no all resistance instead of minus 40. So if you need to top off your MPM by a little bit, and you don't want to, you know, nuke your stats with Drop Bear Hat, Eternal Hourglass isn't actually a bad choice. And that's gonna be from Cinquefoil over here in Sherwood. Quests, Sands of Eternity. However, I will say it is annoying to farm because this quest has a really large drop table. I believe it's like there's the three, it has 3 weapons, a cape and a helm, which ends up being, you know, like 25 total items, I think. So it might take a while to drop the level that you want. So as for necklaces, we once again have Slimy Necklace. Great item. That's 7 MPM, basically the best you can get from story. And again, MPM goes really well with minus health, because usually you want to heal when you're under an MPM shield. So very, very good item. Again, must have. And besides that, it would just be the Crystalline Necklace. I don't believe I have this at all, but I can bring up an image of the stats here. And that's going to be from Atreya. And it's going to be from the Dreamscape quest here. So it's 5 all resistance, 6 MPM. So it's good for stacking MPM while retaining your all res. If you're not planning on healing under your shield, you could use this instead of Slimy Necklace to maybe retain some offensive stats. And next up, capes. Once again, the hide behind. You know, 40 MPM is huge, minus 20 health is huge, but 40 all, so again, don't get hit while having this equipped, but it is a must-have item. Only other real option would be the Unail Protectorate. This has 5 all, minus 10 health, so nice for healing. 9 NPM. This is good for stacking NPM while retaining your all res. And to get it, you're gonna want to go to Sulaneska, to Kara, and it's gonna be from Song of the Atela, Song in Our Hearts. Alright, so for rings, again, it's going to be the Unhallowed Death Knight Circlet, 9 NPM, minus 6 health, so also good for healing. The most valuable Death Knight item. For belts, we have the Inlaid Trithril Belt, 12 NPM, no other stats, but you know, it is very good for stacking NPM. And that's going to be from Ravenloss. It's all the way on the other side of the city. It's going to take a while to get there, so... It's going to be by Aegis's house. It's going to be in this one here. This is Aegis's house. I'm going to go in this small house here. Talk to Yashta. Quests. Trithril for Yashta. It's pretty annoying to farm. It's a maze. The drop table is pretty large, I think. So it does take a while to get, but still generally worth having. Your only other option would be, where is it? Ribbon of Compromise or Crystal Notch Belt for that 8 NPM with that 5 all. So good for, again, stacking NPM while retaining some all res. If you have a pretty high shield, but you need to top it off by a little bit, or, you know, if you can't reasonably shield all the way, so you might get hit, but you don't want to just die instantly if you do get hit. Again, trinkets, it doesn't matter because you can't swap trinkets, but Dragon's Bulwark does have 5 NPM, so. As for bracers, it's going to be as a Vagrant Farewell, 7 luck, so technically it's the best NPM trinket in heavy quotations, you know, if that 7 luck actually brings you to a breakpoint, but it's entirely skippable. It's really annoying to farm. It's from this quest in the first Halo, Coming Home. The drop table is like the broken bracelet as a Vagrant Farewell 1, 2, and 3. It has like a 3% drop rate. You're gonna get like 50 broken bracelets. It sucks to farm. I would say like just skip it. And lastly, for BPD gear. So BPD gear, I would say, is pretty much skippable unless you play a class that uses a BPD shield. So like Pyro or Necro, something like that. So for weapons, it's going to be again the Shadow Dream weapons because of that 10 all, 10 BPD. Nothing else is like particularly comparable, so just use the Shadow Dream weapons. For helms, it's going to be the Drop Bear hat. We already went over 17 BPD, minus 40 health. So again, only use it if you need it to make you completely safe or you have otherwise really good odds. There is no, like, kind of how Hide Behind has Crown of Damocles. Drop Bear hat is just Drop Bear hat. There's no like BPD equivalent to it, so it's just going to be Drop Bear hat. Your only other options, Doom Dragon Helm has 12 BPD, which is actually not bad, while also not sacrificing 40 all resistance, so pretty solid. I never actually knew about this helm until I started doing research for this video. And to get that, we're gonna go to Simone again. It's gonna be from Castle Nostromo. Actually, no, that's the Voidhugger helm. So the Voidhugger helm is roughly equal to the Doom Dragon helm. The Doom Dragon helm is actually from Old Friends. I would say the Doom Dragon helm is slightly better, but they're pretty much like equal. So if you play BPD, I think they're actually pretty useful helms to have. And so for necklaces, we're gonna have the linked bands of Nature's Bounty, 20 BPD. So like actually a lot, because it's kind of weird for a necklace to be better than a helm. But yeah, 20 BPD, no minus all, -5 health, so it's nice for healing. I actually kind of love this item. It's kind of a meme within the community that I'm a linked bands enjoyer. But yeah, this is the highest BPD for a necklace in the game, so definitely worth picking up if you play a BPD class. And that's going to be from Book 3, Osprey Cove. So if we go to Osprey Cove here, it's to the right, and then you're going to enter this pet shop here and do this missing pets quest. You might have to farm it a little bit, but you know, if you play like Pyromancer, Necromancer, or something with a BPD shield, I'd say it's pretty worth getting. As for capes, Crown of Damocles, I already mentioned, you know, 40 BPD, good for healing. And if you don't want to sacrifice your all resistance, Shade Cloak of the Emperor. This is another pretty recent item. 7 all resistance, 10 BPD, so you know, good for stacking BPD and all resistance. And that's gonna be from Sirius again, right over here, and across the Fierce Steep. As for rings, we've got the Frostbreaker's ring. Again, 15 BPD, so actually pretty significant. Surprisingly, not bad stats. So yeah, actually really good ring if you need the BPD. And that's gonna be from Awakened Depths over in Dragisvard. It's gonna be from, I believe, The Way Forward, this quest here. And lastly, for belts, it's just going to be the Warding Girdle, 12 BPD, 5 all. So yeah, best BPD belt in the game. Also nice because it has 5 all, so definitely worth picking up if you need the BPD. And that's going to be from the Shears. Once again, over to Leon. Quests, Sanctuary's Return, a new discovery. Trinkets, again, doesn't matter, you can't swap trinkets anyways. Bulwark does have 5 BPD. And for bracers, literally nothing. There is no BPD bracer. Luck does not increase BPD, it only increases NPM. So just, you know, default to like the Heroes Armband or something. Alright, and that's all the equipable gear. So now I'm gonna just mention the specials really quickly, the useful weapon specials. I already talked about Ice Scythe. 15% chance on hit to decrease your target's ice res by 10 when paired with Soulforge Scythe Ice. It's going to be the most damage you can get pre-in. And luckily for us, a lot of the useful specials are all in the same spot, and that's going to be over here with Igor in Sherwood. So if we go up here, there's a couple of different ways to get to him. This is the route I usually take though. Up here, up again, left, up, left, up, and this dude Igor, can go to shops, replica items, DA items, and so the main ones, we got Ice Scythe here. So for weapon specials, you only need to get the level 10 versions because it's the same no matter what. And that way you can save a lot of gold. You don't have to spend, you know, like 66,000 gold to get the 3 main ones. So you got Ice Scythe, you got Twilly's Staff. Twilly's Staff is the best healing special in the game. It's a 5% chance on hit to apply a 60% weapon damage heal over time effect to yourself for, I believe, 3 turns. So very good healing special over, you know, a full proc that can be like 200 health. If you get a double proc, that can be like 250 to 300 health. And then there's Blade of Awe. This has a 5% chance on hit to heal your health and mana by 4% of their max. So overall, unless you have like really high hit count, it's worse than Twilly's for healing. The mana is also kind of unimpressive. Like 1 proc is usually about 32 mana, I believe, which might not even be like 1 skill. So what I would say is you can proc Twilly's and then swap off that, proc Blade of Awe if you can. And then once Twilly's runs out, swap back to Twilly's. That's what a lot of people do to kind of try to maximize their healing. The rest of these are useful. Besides Zorbak's Staff, the dot is kind of pitiful. Irismancer increases your bonus. Shadowfire is again another kind of pitiful dot. Light of Destiny is helpful against undead. Dragon Blade increase your damage against dragons. I would say probably the most worth getting after Twilly's, Ice Scythe, and Blade of Awe, because there are a bunch of dragon challenges in the inn. And then next up, we got Thorn Replica. This, as you can see, increases your critical hit damage multiplier by 5%. Now, common misconception, this does not increase the damage that your critical hits do by 5%. This increases your critical hit damage modifier from 1.75, which is most classes' defaults, to 1.8. And that's before int. So the more int you have, the less that 5% actually matters. But still, you know, 5% is extra damage, and extra damage is extra damage. So if you're critting, if you're auto critting or stuff, it's still worth slotting Thorn Replica. Also can be useful for farming if you're playing a class that crits a lot. And to get that, we're going to go to Ash, the Thorns, and Unraveled. And lastly would be these weapons right here, the Awe weapons, not to be confused with the Blade of Awe. That's AWW. So these are obviously unimpressive weapons overall. The main use is that they have a very powerful on-demand special that will apply a damage over time effect to your target for 3 turns that deals 5% of your max health each turn, and also applies a heal over time effect to yourself for 5% of your max health each turn. So it's really good when combined with something like self-containment unit because it's a % max health heal. However, it does have a really long cooldown, 20 turns. It's only 9 turns if you have it equipped at, or if you have it slotted at the start of battle. So it's still a really powerful on-demand special, especially if you play a defensive class, notably Bulwark Dragonlord, which can increase its own end, so it can increase your own max HP, and that way your weapon will hit for a lot and heal for a lot. And to get that, we're gonna go to book 1, the Earth Orb, and we're gonna head to Fortuna, quests, and it's gonna be in Hidden Blades, dig map, boss fight. Again, the level doesn't matter because specials are the same no matter what level they are, as long as you just slot them. So you can get the level 10 version or whatever, or you can get, you know, the level 68 version to be able to store it in your bank for free if you have a DA. But yeah, that's pretty much every notable weapon, not just weapon, every notable piece of gear pre-in that I could think of. You know, if you have any questions, definitely leave a comment. I like to think that I'm pretty good about getting to comments. And again, big thanks to Zach for the pre-in shopping list, Raccoon for, you know, leaving comments on the script, Balth as well, anyone else who helped. As for upcoming videos, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm probably going to be doing a video on the best DC and seasonal gear. So that would include stuff like the Fierce Dragonlord Helm, the Stretchy Candy Cape, stuff like that. And then I'm also working on a comprehensive Chaos Weaver guide. So that's going to be something to look forward to for any of you Chaos Weaver players out there. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you guys again.